So eSafety and the coronavirus, a practical guide to keep you and your loved ones cyber safe during isolation, with additional guidance from the Bible. This presentation is being put on by the Christadelphians of Aberfoyle Park, who meet weekly in Adelaide in South Australia. As I mentioned, we're living in a new time, a new age, and we've had to adopt a new way of doing things. I'd like to start with an analogy. I think that God is putting all of us, really, the entire world, through a reboot. We're getting an update, and changes are being made. That is certainly evident. Now, usually whenever we have to do an update, a software update, or we have to restart, do a reboot, it's an annoyance. We really don't want to do it. We often avoid it. We say, my device is working fine. Why do I have to do this? But we do know that there are usually very valid and very important reasons to do an update. Well, the coronavirus update for all of us has made us change the ways that we do things. Particularly, our virtual lives have changed. Our participation online has changed dramatically. It is increased in time. And it comes with some rewards that we'll look at tonight, some good technological training and advancements that each of us have done in our individual lives, which is a good thing. But it also comes with some risks, some very significant risks. And we're going to look at those tonight so that we can be better equipped and better prepared. So the contents for this presentation is to look at the increased device time and time online that we're now experiencing, and what are the ramifications of that, including unwanted contact, how to deal with that, and how to be aware of grooming, and how to protect our privacy. How to deal with increased amounts of screen time and with techno guilt. We're going to look at the changing landscape of online gaming, how that has increased, and what some of the ramifications of that are. We're going to look at the explosion, really, of video chat and video calling apps and programs, and how do we need to navigate those, and what are some of the risks that we need to be aware of when using them. We're also going to look at respectful online relationships during isolation and how those have been challenged during this time, and how we really need to have a think about, especially for our young people and young online dating relationships, how to keep those safe and keep those appropriate. We're going to look at the 10 best practices for e-safety during the coronavirus. We're going to also look at some strategies for senior digital citizens who also need a lot of support right now. And we're going to look at what guidance does God give us in the Bible? What are some of the principles that God gives us in the Bible that we can bring to bear in this present age to help us to remain safe in the online world? And I'll finish off by giving you some resources of where you can go to get help and more information. On a practical note, because we're using our devices so much more, I think it's worth taking just a minute to think about why we should keep those clean and how those can be a source of germs and spreading of different bacteria. How many times a day does a millennial check their phone? Well, pre-coronavirus, it was 157 times a day. That's an average of 10 times an hour, and I'm sure that that has increased as we've been a lot more focused on the news and getting the updates. I'm sure it's quite a lot more than 10 times an hour now. That's why it's really important to clean and sanitize your devices regularly, including those systems, especially those on and off buttons and those controllers. A gentle wipe with an antibacterial wipe, or a spray with an antibacterial spray and a cloth, that will do just fine. Don't go too heavy on it because you don't want to damage your phone, but even Apple and Android these days do recommend that you give the device a clean in that manner. How many germs do you think are on 1 square inch of your phone? In case you're not sold on this, have a look at this slide. Basically, 25,000 different germs are found in 1 square inch on a mobile phone. That's more than is found in a square inch on public toilets, public toilet seats, the bottoms of shoes, doorknobs, and kitchen counters. 18 times more bacteria than in a public bathroom. You can see it there on the graphic. So it is really, really important. Just on a practical level, we are using our devices a lot more. We are checking the news more. We are touching them more. So let's just take that moment to make sure that they're clean and sanitized and germ-free. And I think that will help quite a lot on a practical level. Okay, so turning our attention to the online world. Yes, there is a massive increase use of devices and a massive increase in the time that we are all online. As countries enforce social distancing and home isolation rules to contain the virus, more people are online for work, for learning, for communication, and entertainment, such as streaming media to escape that boredom of self-isolation and being at home. Children, of course, are online to do their learning and for recreation. Teens are going online for learning, but also for that social contact and escapism from self-isolation, which I think is one of the reasons we're seeing such a rise in the amount of people participating in online gaming. Although, as we're going to see, that's not just relevant for teenagers, but for adults as well. Not surprisingly, organizations around the world have seen an increase in cyber-related threats, exploitations, theft, and bullying. We're going to leave that presentation there just for a minute. I'd like to direct you over to a couple of news articles that highlight this. This isn't something new. It's been out there, and if you've been paying attention, the stories and the stats and the information are all there for you to see. Here's a recent article from Channel 7 here in South Australia, and they talk about how during coronavirus, the surprising rise in cyberbullying has increased dramatically during social isolation. While Australians are turning online more for work, school, socializing, and to escape the boredom of isolation, the rise in screen time has also seen a massive increase in cyberbullying. And it's not just children that are being targeted. The eSafety Commission in Australia, her department has seen a 40% increase in the number of reports of cyberbullying, with 15% of those involving direct threats of harm. It makes sense that with kids spending more time online and sometimes unsupervised, the risks are heightened. And that's from Julie Inman Grant, Australia's eSafety Commissioner. So unfortunately, in this climate, in this changing world of coronavirus, we've seen a massive spike in cyberbullying activity. It's not just cyberbullying that has seen an increase. I'll direct your attention here to an article, this time from the United Nations, UN News, and they point out that online predators put millions of children at risk during COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. So here we can see a student there doing their work online because they're not at school. It says school closures and strict containment measures mean more and more families are relying on technology and digital solutions to keep children learning, entertained, and connected to the outside world. But not all children have the necessary knowledge, skills, and resources to keep themselves safe online. And I'm hoping that the information that you'll see tonight will help combat that. More than 1.5 billion children and young people have been affected by school closures worldwide, and many are online now, taking classes and socializing. Spending more time on virtual platforms can leave children vulnerable to online sexual exploitation as predators capitalize on the COVID-19 pandemic. We must help them navigate this new reality? And absolutely, I agree. Yes, we do. So I'm hopeful tonight you're going to be able to get some of the strategies you need to ensure that your children and your loved ones and yourselves, that you're able to keep cyber safe. So cyberbullying's been on the rise. Unfortunately, the amount of online predatory activity has also increased. Now, the other thing that has increased online during the coronavirus pandemic has been cybercrime. I'll just direct you to this article. Security brief. Reporting on news from Trend Micro. Now, Trend Micro are a cybersecurity solutions firm, and they've released data that says during the COVID-19 era, malware and spam has seen a dramatic increase. They say that globally, Trend Micro has detected an increase in COVID-19 related spam of 220-fold from February to March, and 907,000 total spam messages related to COVID-19 for the same period. The firm detected 737 incidents of malware. So we see this disturbing trend where people are leveraging current or topical events in social engineering strategies as a tactic to commit cybercrime. Because of the unpredictability of the pandemic itself, we are seeing a steep rise in exploitations by cybercriminals using the virus as bait, playing into people's worry, anxiety, and perhaps lowered security during this time. So we see there in the news, right out there for us, in our face, that cyberbullying, that online predators, and that cybercrime, unfortunately, are all on the increase, which makes our topic tonight all that much more important. Sorry, we've got a bit of a hitch here. Let me just try that again. Get our presentation back up here. Now, I do have to give a little shout out to Scott Morrison, or ScoMo, as we've all affectionately become to know him in recent times, the Prime Minister of Australia, because he did bring this to the front and did point this out as a very, very important issue. He said, your children will be online more than they ever have been, and that means they are at risk more often than they ever have been online. So I really do want to commend him for recognizing that fact and for drawing people's attention to this. So as we've seen and as we've said, many more kids are online and for more amounts of time. So there's increased opportunities for exploitation and predatory behavior. Many services are closed. So there's an increased opportunity to exploit older digital citizens who ironically are being encouraged to connect, but are particularly vulnerable. Many adults are working from home, and this has led to an increased opportunity for people to hack companies and hack employees and steal information. I won't go there because of the sake of time, but there's another interesting article there, securitybrief.com, which talks about how malware and spam-related scams have been massively on the rise during the corona pandemic. So certainly have a few challenges out there for us and quite a few things we need to be aware of and to be wary of. So looking at the coronavirus as a whole, you can see on the left there, we've been encouraged to protect ourselves by wearing masks and different protective equipment to protect ourselves from this virus. As you transition to the middle picture there, all of us, as we've said, are on devices much more and are online much more. So my point to you this evening and during this presentation is that it is just as important to protect ourselves online during this time of the coronavirus pandemic, just as important to do that as it is to wear a mask or wash your hands to protect yourself from the actual virus itself. Let's get into that first major topic. One of the first major consequences of people spending more time online, particularly children, and that is the unfortunate phenomenon of unwanted contact and grooming. It's even more important these days to ensure that all conversations that our children and teens are having online, that they're safe, that they're healthy, and that they're actually wanted. Unwanted contact is any online communication that makes your child feel uncomfortable or unsafe, even if they initially welcome the contact. It can come from an online friend, and I put that in quotations because just because you play a game online or an app with someone doesn't necessarily mean that they're a friend. And our children need quite a lot of help in defining that. At worst, it can evolve and develop into grooming, which is where a quote-unquote friend online will build a relationship with a child through that common area of interest, through that app, with the goal of sexually exploiting them. I'd like to share with you a video that really shows how this can play out so easily. It's called Emily's Story, and it's by Think You Know Australia. Let's go ahead and have a look at that together now. I'll just load it up here for you.
It wasn't a daydream, it wasn't a feeling. Never thought one day in my head I wanted to grab it, I wanted to be it, I wanted to write a song instead. Cause when I see my reflection, I wanna say I gave it all. Electric and effects to come alive. I like my guitar when it's amplified. Connections and the lights are in my eyes. I like my guitar when it's amplified. Amplified. It doesn't matter. What would you rather? Can brag about. You never even tried. And nothing is worthless. You don't need forgiveness. Everybody's felt the lows and highs. Cause when I see my reflection,
Hey Emily, you ready for school?
Hard hitting. No doubt you found that awkward and probably a little bit difficult to watch. But I think that's important because there's no point in us trying to ignore that this happens. We need to be aware of how easily and how quickly it can happen. One thing that I really have picked up on working with the South Australian police in the past couple of years is that they have noticed a trend where online predators are becoming a lot faster, are becoming a lot more pointed and are really not wasting any time. They're becoming a lot more indiscriminate with the way that they really go in and hone in for what they want and then just move on. If they don't get what they want, just move on and find, unfortunately, the next unsuspecting or unsupervised minor. So Emily's story, very, very important for us to learn some lessons from. You might have noticed that she had her device that was connected to the internet in the privacy of her bedroom. And what that really is doing is opening a window. It's kind of like opening a billboard. If it's unprotected, it's like putting an open billboard in front of the house, showing her photo, giving all of her information. And as I mentioned, with the coronavirus pandemic, we've seen a giant increase in the use of video chat and video calling apps. So this is how this could play out on messaging chat. And you can imagine that the stakes can be even higher if this was playing out on over live video. So very, very important for us to be vigilant. So how do we minimize the risks and protect particularly our children from this kind of behavior? Well, number one, make their accounts private. Number two, don't give social media apps access to location services. So the default setting on all of these apps is for these accounts to be public and for pictures and content that's posted to the account to have tracking information uploaded with them. So in other words, if you're uploading a video or your child is uploading a picture, the geographical location of where that picture was taken, where it was uploaded, it's there on the photo for anybody to find. So make sure, I don't have time to go into it now, but make sure you go into your settings, your location settings on your phone, and do not give these social media apps access to that. Very, very important. Follow the age guidelines. Don't have your children using social media apps or playing games. Not age appropriate. Currently, the minimum age to open an account on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, and Snapchat is 13 years old. But even then, I would say that is just as a minimum. For instance, the game Fortnite has a minimum age rating of 12, but you can still in that game, go around shooting people in the head. So I just think exercise common sense, exercise your judgment, exercise your conscience and your values in your family, and really have a talk with your children about what's the appropriate age within your household to be accessing these things online. Delete contacts they don't know in real life or don't talk to. Report and block. If your child receives any unwanted contact from either someone they know or a stranger, encourage them to report it and block the person. Each of these apps has a reporting and blocking function, so make sure that you check that out before allowing your child to create an account and use that platform. Delete requests from strangers. Encourage your child to delete friend or follow requests from people they don't know. So really the rule of thumb with children and with young people is to only friend those either through online games or through social media. Only friend those people that you know and have a connection with in life. How to minimize risks and protect your child. Stay involved in your child's digital world. Keep an open and trusting relationship. Keep communication open and calm so that they know they can come to you if someone is asking them to do something that doesn't feel right, or if they see something online that makes them feel uncomfortable or that they don't think is right. Help your child to protect their privacy. Talk to them about how easy it is to give up personal information. If they're taking photos in their bedroom with home, they could be divulging all kinds of information. For instance, if they take a photo of them wearing their school uniform and their account isn't set to private, Well, now that's out there for people to find out where that child goes to school. They can find out where that photo was uploaded. You understand where I'm going with this. So talk to them about how important it is not to divulge personal information, especially when playing online apps or when interacting with the people on social media. Teach your child to alert to signs of inappropriate contact. Help them recognize signs that an online friend may be trying to develop an inappropriate relationship. And there's a few tells. One of them is that they might ask lots of questions about personal information soon after meeting online. They might want to meet in person. They might want to know which room their computer is in. They might ask for favors and doing things in return. And this, unfortunately, is a tactic that abusers will often use as a way of blackmailing young people and minors. Okay, moving on from that, how do we combat excessive screen time? So more and more of us now having to be engaged with our devices and being online for work and play and different things. How do we manage that? Well, research tells us that for children over 10 years old, an hour of screen time can be beneficial for mental health. I mean, you have to ask the question why, because mostly what we hear about screen time is that it's bad. Well, as an adult, we can relate. You know, a little bit of screen time can often be a nice way to unwind, a nice way to have a little bit of an escape from the pressures and problems of the world. And, you know, there's nothing really wrong with that in and of itself. But research tells us that children over 10, and adults, who have more than an hour of continuous screen time a day, that can lead to negative impacts on mental health. It correlates with increased agitation in children, anxiety, inactivity, obesity, hyperactivity, and aggression. So there's no denying research that confirms excessive screen time can compromise health and well-being, particularly for children who need their sleep so much, and who need physical movement, who need to be exercising those language and social skills and physical activity skills. But even as adults, we know that too much screen time can start to affect our sleep and really can start to adversely affect our lives and the people around us. The problem is, if we're spending too much time with pixels, it limits the time we could be using to develop other important skills or time that we could be spending with people that we love, which is so important. So it's become a bit of an issue for children, and that is parents feeling techno guilt, although with all of the binge watching and consuming streaming media that's out there now, people being stuck at home, nothing to do, it's easy for adults to feel that techno guilt as well, that we're spending too much time in front of our screens. How do we deal with that? Well, a lot is being said about it. Basically, there's different kinds of screen time. Okay, it's the frequency, it's the duration, and it's what's being accessed on the screen that all has to be taken into account. The reality is that now more than ever, we, as just a fact of life, our screen time has increased. Okay, our children are on there for learning, we are on there for work, we access a lot of our entertainment content on there, we access our banking on there, we make appointments on there, we now communicate with relatives over Zoom and other apps online. So it's not that it's all bad. Unfortunately, a lot of it is just necessary, and that's now a fact of life. There is research out there that confirms that technology can actually support and not stifle kids' learning and well-being when, and here's the key, when it's used in moderation, if it's age appropriate, and used in intentional ways. So the most important key to this kind of screen time being beneficial, for any screen time being beneficial, is to communicate the expectations with our children. and set enforceable boundaries that we can actually abide by and that we can enforce. And before we start thinking that this is just a child or a teenager problem, we need to start by having a look at ourselves, or perhaps our partner or our spouse. Make an agreement together that you're going to go into settings and turn off that automatically the next episode function, or that you're going to just watch one episode and then that's it. You're going to get to bed and get a good night's sleep. This is now a reality that all of us need to deal with and need to be able to regulate in order to have happy, successful, and healthy lives. Now, what we have in our corner is some amazing technologies that can help us. On Apple and iOS devices, they have inbuilt into the operating system screen time. And on Android devices, there is the Google Digital Well-being component. And these are exceptional. Basically, they let us know how much time we are spending on certain apps or certain websites. And this way, it's so easy for time to just fly by, and we're not even cognizant. We don't even realize how much time we might have wasted just going down some rabbit hole of YouTube videos, watching something that we didn't even intend to be watching. We started on YouTube in some way different place, but that's what happens. It sucks time out of us. We probably all remember the famous quote from the Netflix CEO that said, "Our only, major enemy here is sleep." So we can look at and be aware of our own online activity, but you can connect this to your child's devices, and you can monitor and see how much time they are spending on certain apps or websites. Now, this way you can make informed decisions about how you want to be spending your time, and you can set limits. You can do that for yourself, and most importantly, and as a parent, what's really exciting is that you can, through screen time on your device, you can set limits on your children's devices. Okay, so you can view reports on the weekly activity. You can set limits on apps and on content that they can access. You can manage your child's device. You can set up how much time you want to allow them per day to play games or to use a certain app. This really, really is an amazing service that is available to us. So if you haven't set this up, this is your homework. This is number one. You really need to go and get this set up and get your children, get their devices linked to your screen time or your digital well-being account. What we really want to strive for, of course, is a healthy balance. Take some time to disconnect. Build in purposeful times when you're doing other activities off of the screen, not online, such as playing a game, cooking together. Here in South Australia, we're blessed to be able to go outside and go on bike rides. That is okay under social distancing requirements. So take advantage of that. How much time is too much? Well, it's different for everyone, but here's some signs to look for. Tiredness, sleep disturbance, headaches. Those can all be products of binge watching or too much gaming. Eye strain, changes in eating patterns, reduced personal hygiene, constantly talking about particular online programs such as gaming sites. Extreme anger when being asked to take a break from online activity. Appearing anxious or irritable when away from the computer or the phone or the device. Becoming withdrawn from friends and family. Feeling anxious or not knowing what to do without the technology. Those are all signs that we need to look out for. Now, following on from excessive screen time is this phenomenon that we've seen, the rise of the use of online gaming during the coronavirus pandemic. It makes sense. Obviously, a lot more people are at home. They've got time on their hands, and they are willing and ready to get lost in a good video game. But there's something more to it we've seen this morph, the old picture of a solitary gamer, a loner who never interacts with other people and is always just playing video games. Well, that's kind of changed. Video game addiction was officially defined as a mental health disorder in 2019 by the World Health Organization. So this has been a noticeable phenomenon that's been building for quite a while, and it's getting to the point that it's affecting people's lives, or they're experiencing negative impacts of gaming in their lives, but yet they can't stop doing the gaming, and it's negatively affecting not only them, but their families and the people around them. In the interest of time, we won't go there, but there's a link to a good article that explains that and elaborates on it. But what we're seeing in the COVID era is that gaming actually is fostering a social connection. That video games now are a form of social engagement that allows humans to safely gather together in online environments in a game where they can't do that now in person. It's not safe or responsible. Online gaming provides moments of escape and a sense of agency when people feel that they have none. There's also an interesting link with virtual sport video games. The popularity of athletes and people participating in virtual sports has really increased because, of course, all of the live sporting events have been canceled. So this has also been a way for people to still participate in the sport that they love, or follow the athletes that they like to follow. The gaming industry has fared exceptionally well during the coronavirus, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. One sign of that was a recent release of the first-person shooter Call of Duty Warzone, and on March 10th, it saw 30 million. It was released on March 10th, and it saw 30 million players in just 10 days. I mean, that is a lot of people congregating in the same place online and interacting together. Well, what are the risks with online gaming? What do we need to be aware of? If your child is online gaming, it is important to be aware that spending too much time gaming can have negative impacts on their health, their ability to study, and their social and emotional well-being. With online games, your child could be communicating with strangers, including adults, through webcam, private messaging, or online chat, increasing the risk of contact from online abusers or bullying from other players, which is quite common to experience aggressive behavior excuse me, from other players. There's also games and a lot of apps out there now, particularly with gambling-like elements, and that can really normalize gambling for children and young people. And there's also the costs of in-game spending. You can see on the left there a screenshot from a news article about a boy in England who spent nearly £700 in just a couple of days on buying upgrades in Fortnite, playing on the Xbox, and that's real money. So there's a lot of risks here, and you can imagine how this can be quite dangerous if children are not educated and not supervised, or if they're released into these online gaming environments too young and not having the maturity to handle them. Now, as I mentioned before, the profile of the average gamer is changing. According to a 2019 gaming industry study from the Entertainment Software Association, 65% of adults play video games across different types of hardware. So it could be PCs, phones, gaming consoles like Xbox or PlayStation. 65% of adults. I mean, that's more than half. That is a lot. Interestingly as well, the gender split is narrowing. 46% of players are female at an average age of 34 years, and 54% are male at an average age of 32 years. It's always amazingly eye-opening to ask kids in school who like to play online games, to ask them, what do you think the average age of a gamer is online? And they usually say something like, oh, I don't know, 16, 19. And then when you say 34, their jaw drops. They can't imagine interacting with a 34-year-old stranger out on the street. Yet, when they go into these online gaming environments, they can be, more often than not are, interacting with adults who are this age. One of the most significant findings is that 63% of gamers play with others, and that many players get social support from the gaming communities that they are in. So that is the big difference now that we see. And we see that people are really drawing on this as a way of socialization and support during the coronavirus pandemic. It's a way of reaching out and interacting with others. Here's a follow-up article on that you might want to look at in your own time that elaborates more on these statistics. So, is gaming good or bad? Well, nothing can take place of physical exercise, outdoor activities, or spending time with loved ones. Nothing's going to really match that as far as giving you a sense of gratitude and belonging and feelings of happiness. But some gaming, especially in an environment of shelter at home, can be a healthy escape. Okay, so just watch the amount of time, the frequency, the duration, the level of the content of the game. What I would suggest is, as you can see in these photos, do some gaming together, but do it together. Involve the family. Don't just make it a solitary activity where a child can detach from the home environment and from the family and go and interact with strangers. Do it together. Get involved in their online world, in their gaming world, what they like to do. You might actually find that they're actually quite talented at some of the games that they play and have some skills that you probably never thought your kids have. No doubt they'll enjoy beating you at all the games that they want you to play. So they enjoy that as well. Steps for safer gaming. Locate the computer or the games console in an open area of your home. If your child is playing on their handheld device, get them to do it in the family room. Activate parental controls and safety features on the device or in the app or on the browser. These controls can help restrict access to certain content and limit spending on in-game and in-app purchases. So whether your child likes to do their gaming on a Nintendo Switch or on a PC through Steam or on their iPad, there really is no excuse. It is a great thing that all of these platforms offer some form of parental controls. So if your child is getting into trouble, you really need to have a look at your own responsibility and have you set up those restrictions? Have you done the research ahead of time before letting them free in that environment? None of us would give our kids the keys to a car and say, hey, go and drive out on the street, without first teaching them about road safety, about the dangers of being on the road, about the danger of other drivers. We would never do that with a child. So why would we do that with their activity online? If you're not sure, just search for the streaming service or the console name and parental controls on Google, and you'll be able to quickly find your available options. Help your child to protect their privacy online. I've already talked about this in relation to social media. Get them to use a screen name that doesn't reveal their real name, and teach them not to divulge personal information to other players. Teach your child not to click on links provided by strangers, like cheat programs or hack programs, because that might expose your device to a virus or malware. Agree on strategies to help them to switch off, like setting a timer or setting up those parental controls setting up that screen time app to make sure that when it's time that it's over, it just shuts down, it's over, and then you don't have a battle on your hands. Talk regularly with your child about their gaming interests and who they play with online. Help them to understand the potential risks. Encourage your child to tell you if they experience anything that worries them or makes them uncomfortable. On the left there, you can see some of the parental controls that are offered through the popular game Fortnite. As I said, a lot of these controls are out there and can be very beneficial, can save you and your child a world of hurt. So please do have a look at them and be proactive. Check apps or games that they want to play on Common Sense Media. This is an amazing website and resource for parents. You'll find honest, parent-centered reviews with families in mind. They will tell you all the information you will want to know as a parent about the app or the game or the movie or the TV show that your kid is begging you to let them download and have. Disable the voice chat or the text chat on games, or just have your child play those games offline. That can be a nice way to solve a lot of problems. Limit children to play online only with friends they know in real life. Common thread there with social media use. And how much is too much gaming? Well, this is similar to the indicators of too much screen time. Look out for lots of interest in social activities like meeting friends or playing sport. Now, of course, that's problematic in our COVID-19 world because physical sports and team sports have been canceled. So, of course, kids are turning more to their video games. And I mean, who could blame them? Look out for the fact that they're not doing so well at school. Well, here we have another challenge that's being put in front of us, and that is that in many countries around the world, schools have been canceled. So right off the bat, we've got two huge factors that are making online gaming a lot more appealing, opening up a lot more time for online gaming to happen. Look out for tiredness, sleep disturbance, headaches or eye strain, changes in eating patterns, reduced personal hygiene, obsession with a particular game, anger when being asked to take a break from the game, or appearing anxious or irritable when away from the computer. I mean, so much stimulation of the brain that's happening when someone is gaming, but their body is not moving, and that stores up a lot of energy and frustration. So it's important, as mentioned earlier, to establish ways and strategies that our kids are going to switch off or take breaks or have downtime or off time, disconnect time, and let's make sure that we give them some really great options for them to be able to participate in during those times, such as doing a puzzle together, playing a game together, go out in the backyard together, cook together. Once we start thinking, there are quite a few options. Set firm limits as a family, because spending too much time gaming can be linked to other problems like depression and anxiety, which can correlate with problematic internet use or too much screen time. So, a lot of these things line up to have the same kind of patterns. We need to be wary of those. So the other thing that we've seen is an increased use of live video chat and video conferencing, which, when we talk about risks and rewards, this has probably been one of those rewarding areas that we've experienced. I mean, imagine how hard self-isolating and sheltering at home would be without video calling. Services like Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, Google Hangouts, and a host of others have made it possible for us to connect with friends and family, to connect with our workplace and work from home, to connect with school and do schooling from home at a time when meeting in person just isn't possible or is not responsible. But like every other aspect of life in a digital world, these platforms carry risks as well as benefits, especially when they're being used by our kids, and we are seeing them use these apps in unprecedented numbers. We've heard in recent times about a lot of the loopholes in video conferencing, particularly surrounding Zoom, which has really come to the forefront, become one of the most popular platforms. Junk messages, scams, and nuisance calls and texts from strangers are a way of life on some other video calling apps, such as Skype. They're very common, and it's one of the biggest safety risks for underage users because they don't understand where these unsolicited messages and contact, where these are coming from, what the sources are. With Zoom, what is nice is that if someone sends you a meeting link to join a meeting or a video chat with them, you don't know them or don't want to participate, you do nothing, and that's the end of it, which is really nice. But what we have seen is a lot of what's called Zoom bombing. So where people are crashing these Zoom conferences and Zoom chats and interjecting with pornographic content or violent content, racist content, all manner of inappropriate content. And not only has that been a phenomenon on Zoom, but other apps as well, such as House Party, that have become quite popular. There's numerous documented reports of this unfortunate kind of activity happening. It's really not something funny or a laughing matter. And Zoom have admitted that they've got more work to be done. Thankfully, they have done a lot of work in this area, but it's not foolproof, and we still need to be aware this kind of activity can happen if we use these platforms. So what are some steps we can take to keep ourselves and those who we're talking to, who we're communicating with, safe? Well, number one, don't do or say anything you'll regret later or wouldn't be happy to be made public, because hosts can and do record and save sessions on these programs. Never join a meeting or accept a request from someone you don't actually know. Check out the platform's privacy settings before entering into any chats or setting up a meeting. You'd be surprised at some of the defaults, which goes back to some of those social media apps like Snapchat, Instagram. A lot of the defaults are set for the profile to be wide open. So you really need to comb through the settings and make sure that you've got things set to help protect yourself. Protect your meetings with passwords. Always leave personal details out of your profile. As for moms and dads, it's important to monitor your child's video chats. That doesn't mean hovering over their shoulder all day. Well, hopefully they're not Zooming all day, but it does mean keeping an eye and an ear out at frequent intervals. We've got to be present. And now, more than ever, be sure to keep all devices out of bedrooms. They should not be in private areas of the home. All online activity and using devices should be out in the open where parents are present. It just really does help to curb a lot of issues that can happen. And that again goes back to the video that we watched, Emily's story. We can see how detrimental having phones in private places can become. Now here's this note on social distancing and relationships. I don't have any visuals for this slide, but this is important information. Sometimes we find it a bit uncomfortable to talk about, but it does happen, and it is something that we do really need to communicate with, particularly to our teens and to young people. Social distancing and isolation can be hard on all relationships, but this applies especially for young relationships. Sending nude photos, videos, or intimate video calling can be seen as a way, to flirt or to be intimate while at home, while you can't see each other in person. But it's important that we know, and that our young people and our teens know, about the possible consequences of that behavior. The possibility of losing control of that image is, basically once you've sent it, you have lost control. Having intimate images shared beyond your intended audience, even if you're sending it to a person that you think you trust, such as a boyfriend or a girlfriend, once you send it, you've lost control, and it can be sent out to all manner of people within the blink of an eye. There's psychological and emotional harm that could come about from that, including humiliation, bullying, teasing, harassment, and damage to one's reputation. There are also criminal charges and penalties to keep in mind, in particular, the sharing of non-consensual intimate images. And when it comes to minors who are below the age of consent, the criminal charges of sharing this kind of content online or sending it on to others can become, the consequences can become very steep. It's not innocent, it's not fun, it's not flirting, it's a very serious matter. So, talk to your child about how to stay connected with friends and loved ones in safe, age-appropriate ways. Use devices in common areas. Do video calling only through those parent devices or through parent accounts. Set some restrictions around that. Talk about the risks. What can go wrong and what are some of the legal issues? Remind your child that once an image is shared, it is almost impossible to get it back or to control how it is further distributed. Promote self-confidence and that it's okay to say no. Let them know that they don't have to give in to peer pressure to send anything that they don't want to or that other people might be pressuring them for. Teach your child about consent and respectful relationships. Help them to understand the impact of sharing someone else's intimate images or messages. That sharing that without consent means that you're breaking that person's trust and that you are adding to the problem and to that person's humiliation. So that's about really being a positive bystander and not someone that's going to be a part of pressuring anyone or spreading anything that gets sent out that really is a mistake. Okay, let's get into the top 10 best practices for cyber safety. Number 1, build an open and trusting relationship around technology. Keep that communication open so that they can come to you if something goes wrong or if they encounter something that makes them feel uncomfortable or that they feel isn't right online. Number 2, co-view and co-play with your child online. This will help you to better understand what they are doing and why they enjoy it. It'll also provide an opportunity to start conversations with them about online safety. Number 3, build good habits. Help your child to develop digital intelligence and help them to develop responsibility and agency so that they can begin to start to control and monitor the amount of time they spend and what they're doing online and how they consume technology. Really, really important. And of course, we as adults have to model good habits for them because they're always watching what we're doing, not so much listening to what we're saying. Number 4, empower your child. You can't protect them from everything, but you can provide them with strategies for dealing with negative online experiences so that if that happens, you've already built up their confidence and their resilience, and they know that they can come to you for help and that you're not going to freak out and that you're not going to take their device away. That's what kids are really usually afraid of. Number 5, use devices in open areas of the home. I've already talked about this quite a lot. Number 6, set time limits that balance time spent in front of screens with offline activities. We've also discussed that already and how important that is. You might want to come up with a family technology agreement or a technology agreement with those people who are living with you in your home. And that is going to outline the expectations that you're all going to adhere to in the home to help each other to use technology responsibly and not to abuse it. Number 7, know the apps, games, and social media sites your kids are using. Make sure they're age appropriate. Learn how to limit messaging and online chat and location sharing functions within those apps and games as they can expose your kids. Number 8, check the privacy settings on games and apps that your child is using. Make sure that all of those profiles are locked to the strictest privacy settings. Restrict who can contact your child and make sure that you talk with them about who their friends are and what kind of checklist they should go through before they accept any new friends. Number 9, use available technologies to set up parental controls on devices. I'm going to highlight one that I highly recommend at the end of this presentation. This kind of technology it's out there, it's accessible, there's even solutions out there that are free. So we've really got to pick up on these solutions that can filter out harmful content and help us to monitor what our kids are doing. They can make our lives so much easier. Number 10, be alert to signs of distress and know where to go for more support. And I'm going to highlight that at the end of this presentation. Okay, let's spend a little bit of time now talking about our senior digital citizen friends. Now, seniors are being encouraged to stay connected during this time. But with that comes some risks because a lot of our older senior citizens are not as comfortable with navigating around online and doing things online. So they're a bit more vulnerable, perhaps a little bit more trusting, don't have as much experience, and can really be taken advantage of. So this is an important section. Although it may be necessary for you to physically isolate yourself at home, it's vital that you do stay in touch with friends and family. So you can take advantage of some of these great video calling apps to make video calls, send typed or instant messages, share photos and written updates. All of this is really important so that you can stay in touch with friends and family, stay connected even though you're physically isolated. Through these online solutions, you can still have that connection with loved ones. You might want to set up a regular time to video call or send messages with one another or with your family throughout the day or throughout the week. Now here's a great website called beconnected.esafety.gov.au. There's lots of helpful guides here for senior digital citizens to be able to set up things like video calling, lots of training, lots of ways to help you to get active online, to find the information you need from a trustworthy source. So make sure you check it out. Online shopping. If you're self-isolating in quarantine or your mobility is restricted, shopping at online supermarkets and pharmacies can really help you because, of course, going there in person may not be an option. You can add delivery instructions to your online order, asking for your goods to be left outside and not handed over in person. It's a good idea to shop with brands and established stores that you know and recognize and who use secure websites. So well-known, reputable brands that have a brick and mortar setup and presence, local presence. That is a good idea to stick with them, go to their websites and use them. Now, what to look for? Look for secure websites. So in the URL bar at the top of your internet browser, a secure website will always start with HTTPS. The S is for secure, and sometimes you'll see a little locked padlock. This means that your data and your payment details will be encrypted or sent using a secret code. So that's an added layer of protection to help protect you against any hackers or identity theft. A website address or domain that ends in .com.au lets you know the website is linked to an Australian business. So it's preferable for you to stick with those. Check the store has a working telephone number. Check online reviews by typing the name of the store and reviews into a search engine to see if other customers have had a good experience, or ask friends which online stores they have used and that they've had a positive experience with. Now, one thing that's really important to be aware of, especially our senior digital citizens, is the amount of scams that have seemed to multiply on an exponential level during the corona pandemic, which is really sad, but something we've got to address. Online scams have grown rapidly, and they capitalize on the uncertainty caused by coronavirus. We see, unfortunately, in the world, dishonest people. It's human nature. They try to exploit fear and appeal to your generosity for their own gain. Scams these days can look and sound very real, and that's what makes them scary. But the more you know about them, the easier they are to spot. Now, scammers will always try to collect personal information. That, of course, is identity theft. And there's a couple of ways that they try and do that. One way is they may ask you for your bank details so that they can transfer a prize, for some competition that you didn't enter into your account. Another popular strategy they use is to act or impersonate that they're your bank or some kind of authority, and that they will lock your account if you don't call them back. And then they'll start to ask you questions to get that personal information from you to, quote unquote, verify your identity, but they're just harvesting, unfortunately, your information. There is one other news article here that I wanted to share with you. It didn't really fit in earlier, but it's more apt now. This is from ABC News, and it says that the coronavirus pandemic has spawned record-breaking cybercriminal activity. As the pandemic has spread around the world, cybersecurity experts are tracking record-breaking levels of cybercriminal activity. In the first quarter of 2020, Bolster, which is a cybersecurity firm, documented a massive spike in both phishing and website scams. So phishing scams are where they're trying to get your personal information to then steal your money in the shortest, simplest sense of the term. Detecting over 800,000 confirmed phishing and counterfeit websites, 30% of which were COVID-19 related, in addition to another 4 million suspicious pages. So unfortunately, as I've said before, because of the uncertainty and because of the fear surrounding the virus, all of these fake news websites and these scams have popped up. And if we're not careful, we can fall victim to them pretty quickly. So there's more information here which you can look at later. But certainly this is also something that has been highlighted in the news and is not a surprise, not something that anybody's just cooking up. So beware of scams. Report any scams to your local consumer affairs agency. Now here in Australia, there's ScamWatch. There's also the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and you can report a scam there. You can also go there to look up and investigate if the contact you've had is part of a scam. They will list a lot of the popular scams there. Do not respond at all if you think it's a scam. If in doubt, don't respond. Block the sender. Don't even write them back to tell them that you're not interested. Just block. If you are not sure if the email or message is genuine, use Google to search, or one of those webs that I just mentioned. Look in the text for spelling mistakes and poor English, as this is often a sign of a scam. If a message or email comes from a friend and it seems unusual or out of character for them, just simply ring your friend to see if they sent it before you consider replying. Delete the messages or emails as they come in. Unfortunately, it might come from the same scam or the same scheme, but they're sending it from multiple different aliases. You may just keep having to delete them until they finally stop. If someone asks for your personal details or needs to verify your banking or financial details, that's when red flags should be going off. It may be a scam. ID Care can help you deal with the consequences of identity theft. So if you live in Australia or New Zealand and you have accidentally, you feel, given away personal invitation being sucked into a scam, you can go to ID Care. Their services are free, and they will help you to deal with the consequences of that and try and retrieve your information or limit the damage. Don't be embarrassed if you have been scammed. Hundreds of thousands of very intelligent Australians are scammed every year. So it shows that we are still a very trusting society. Just be especially vigilant and aware, because unfortunately during coronavirus, this kind of activities gotten out of control. Now, I mentioned earlier in my top 10 best practices that you need to take advantage of digital filtering software solutions. And I got to tell you, I've worked with Family Zone. They're an Australian company, but they are available worldwide. This is hands down by far, I think, the most thorough and the best tool. I have no qualms about plugging them whatsoever. Okay, I personally run Family Zone in my home, and I use their extension, which is called Mobile Zone. So through that, I can also control all of the internet filtering and content that goes to my child's devices, and I can control all of that from my phone, from an app simply on my phone. They make it incredibly easy. They work with eSafety experts from all over the country to give you recommendations. Any app, any program, they red flag for you if it's not appropriate for your child's age. It really does make your life easy. And yes, it does come at a cost, but in today's day and age, it is the same as having smoke detectors in your house. It's just a cost that you have to have, and it could save your life. So if you've got screen time active on your child's devices and you've got Family Zone active in your home, you are really stacking the deck in your favor and going a long way to securing your home and to protecting your children. Now, do bear in mind that parental controls and software, they are great, and they can certainly cut out a lot of the harmful or adult content and material to make sure that your kids don't ever see that. But they're not foolproof, okay? And there is no substitute for active parental engagement and oversight of a child's online activities. So helping your child to build good online safety habits is just as important as having these things, these mobile solutions and technology solutions in place. Which brings me to the last part of the presentation. What guidance do we get from the Bible and from God? How do we navigate living in this digital age? How do we navigate living online in now what has become, it's just accelerated. All of the online activity and access that we have, that our children have to have for learning, that our parents and grandparents have to have to stay connected and communicate and and shop online. How do we navigate that? How do we go forward keeping safe? Well, one of the principles that's laid out in the Bible from the Apostle Paul when he was writing to believers in Christ who lived at Philippi, he said, whatever things are true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and worthy of praise, he said, think on these things. Now, they didn't have the internet back then. Okay, they didn't have technology, they didn't have these devices, but this principle of keeping our mind centered on things that fit this criteria, that is going to help us to be able to navigate and keep ourselves in good stead, keep ourselves in the right places online, saying things that are only going to be building other people up and that are only going to be affecting positive change on the internet and the online world. Living by this principle is timeless. And that's what I love about the Bible and the principles that God gives us, is that we can take them and we can apply them even to living in this technological age, even in this age of online contact during the coronavirus. So this is a great verse to keep in mind, to guide your mindset as you live your online life and have online activity. Another verse that comes to mind, which I think is really important in these times, is words of Jesus from the book of Matthew, chapter 10, and verse 16. He said to his disciples, who were his students, who were following him, he said, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." And that really is how we need to be operating in the online world. We need to be aware. We need to arm ourselves with knowledge that there are wolves out there who are going to try to steal our identity, or who are going to try to cyberbully us, or even perhaps are going to try to exploit us, and those of us who are weaker and more vulnerable. So we've got to be wise as serpents about that, but in the way that we communicate with others, in the way that we operate online, the places we go online, the things that we do, we've got to be as harmless as doves. And of course, doves in the Bible are a symbol of peace. And so we've got to be agents of peace with other people online. So what guidance does God give us in the Bible? Well, there's lots more, but those are a couple of timeless biblical values and principles that you can use in this time to help guide you in your online behavior. We'll wrap it up by ending with resources and where to go to get further help. I've already mentioned Common Sense Media and how that's so important to use, to screen all these things that there's so many new apps and games coming out. They do the hard work for you. So go there, get the reviews that you need as a parent. And I've also talked about the eSafety Commissioner. Make sure you do go to their website. They have a wealth of information, and you can also go there to report online abuse. They have a free eSafety guide. You can also visit SAPOL, the South Australian Police Department. They have cybercrime units that can help you if you have been the victim of a scam or a cybercrime, such as exploitation, and they can and definitely do help families who have a child that's been involved in sexting or anything of that kind of nature, or cyberbullying. We're very blessed to have them, that they're equipped to help and support us. So you can definitely go to the police here in South Australia if you have any of those issues, and they will help you. If you need someone to talk to and you're under 25, you can use the Kids Helpline. For all other ages, contact Lifeline. And in South Australia, there is a free parent helpline, and they have trained professionals that can also help you with online parenting issues. Thank you again so much for joining me. This presentation on cyber safety and the coronavirus has been put on by the Aberfoyle Park Christadelphians. Christadelphians are brothers and sisters in Christ who meet all over the world. You can find us here at our Facebook page. We also have our YouTube page for the Aberfoyle Park Christadelphians. If you live in Australia and you're looking to link up with Christadelphians, Christadelphian.org.au is an excellent site where you can go to get in contact. Thank you so much again for joining me. I hope that this has been beneficial for you, and God bless you as you move forward in your life, and particularly your online life. May you continue to be safe, and all of those in your household and your loved ones, may you continue to be safe online. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.